Hey, Jerry Fetta, welcome back to another weekly wealth walk. So I want to share with you a story of mine that really ties into the importance of building wealth the simple way. Because when I first learned about all these top 1% strategies, that's the exact thing that happened is things got complex. Stay tuned to figure out how I handled that, how you can avoid it too. Hey, Jerry Fetta here. So I'm doing another weekly wealth walk, taking a nice walk here, my home in New Mexico. When I first started learning about top 1% wealth, I had the realization that the wealthy do different things than we do. Like they're not doing the normal stuff. That's very evident. You can look at it and you can see like when the economy tanks, somehow they get richer. Everyone else loses money, loses their homes, all that kind of stuff, not the wealthy. So I started researching like what is it that they're doing? Reading biographies. I spent over a decade and I still do a lot of research today even to be able to learn these strategies. And here's what I found out. Okay, so picture this, I'm in my mid-20s. I'm a Dave Ramsey financial advisor at the time. I'm helping people with the traditional retirement planning, their life insurance, their term life insurance policies, their mutual funds, all that kind of good stuff. And I realized the wealthy aren't doing any of that. Okay, and I'm not talking about Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and these people we think about today. I'm talking about old, dead, wealthy people like they had, well, hundreds of years ago. What I learned was their strategies never went away. We don't hear about them because they're not new and exciting, but they've been around for 100, 200, some cases even thousands of years, and they never stopped working. They just weren't sexy and interesting and exciting anymore, so people don't talk about them. Wall Street doesn't really make money on them, so we don't hear about them for those reasons. So I start researching them, right? And I start seeing, okay, I can do stuff like my first one was actually precious metals. I'd never owned precious metals before, but I had a wealthy mentor and he was always buying precious metals. Okay, he had a big gun vault down in his basement full of gold and silver. And so I started buying my first precious metals. I was doing a little bit of that, right? And then I learned about real estate. The first thing I learned about real estate, other than how beneficial it is as a financial investment, was that I didn't have enough money to do it. You might have had that realization too at some point. If you're just starting out, I'm in my mid-20s, I didn't have 50,000, I didn't have 100,000 in order to jump into real estate. So then I had to start looking at, well, where do you put your money at in the meantime? And I started again looking at the precious metals thing, life insurance policies. There's a life insurance policy that I call the sacred account because I just kept coming back to it. I kept seeing wealthy people over and over using that exact structure. So I start learning about all these different things and naturally I'm like, well, I should do them all. They're being done by the wealthy. I'm learning about them. I should start on them. And so I start doing each and every one of them. A little bit here, a little bit there. Okay, I want you to picture a bowl of oatmeal. Right, I'm adding in all the ingredients I can possibly think of. Let's do some butter, let's do some brown sugar, let's do some coconut, let's do some raisins. Each individual ingredient by itself, not a bad idea. But what I started learning was that as you combined them all, if you didn't have a strategy, the oatmeal didn't taste good. Like it was like things were conflicting, they weren't meshing, it was causing problems. So I started actually experiencing a lot of financial confusion because I had all of these new financial structures in my life. And so here's the first framework I want to share with you on this video today as I do my wealth walk. Certain financial tools are structures, entities, trusts, life insurance policies. They're pieces of financial structure. And then there are certain financial tools that I call flows or functions, like they do something. It's not a structure, it's like the money gets sent from here to there, this produces income here, like it actually is a flow. So if you think about like a river, the structure is like the riverbank. Okay, it's the channels, it's the walls. You're putting these structures in place, and if you want your river to flow from point A to point B, they all need to agree. All the structures need to agree and push your flow to the same location. Right, like imagine if it was set up where a river was like, you know, all of a sudden one of the canyons or one of the walls of the river blocked the flow, or maybe sent it back the other direction. Okay, it wouldn't be a very efficient river in terms of, you know, having a fast current, going to the right location, all that kind of stuff. So structures and flows. The flows is like the income, the savings, the investments that are producing. That's like your water, and the water has to flow with your structures. So my structures and flows were jacked up, and I kept on looking at this and I was like, I can't figure out why do I feel stuck, right? I have this new knowledge. I have this top 1% financial information. Why does it feel like I'm getting stuck? Why does it feel like I'm not progressing? And I realized my functions, those flows I talked about, and my structures, those entities and life insurance policies and various things, they weren't lined up, right? They were competing, they were conflicting. And so it was blocking things off. So that was one of the things I had to learn about, was like, okay, what functions and structures and flows do I set up, and when do I set them up? So if you're watching this and you're like, okay, I've tried infinite banking, I've tried real estate, I've tried gold and silver, I've tried trusts, I've tried, self-directed retirement plans, all these things, and it's like you feel stalled out. You feel stuck. You feel like you're putting in effort and you're not moving. That's probably what's happening. And it took me quite a while to figure out the sequence. So I have this thing that I created. It's called the Blueprint to Financial Freedom. It's the actual sequence of how do you set up these structures so you do the right things the right way, at the right time, and in the right order, and with the right people. So that was the second thing I learned, is I started realizing just because somebody could make good social media advertisements or YouTube videos didn't mean they actually could get the job done. And I learned this one the hard way first with life insurance. Okay, so this is the second one. Is the other framework is you can't just focus on the structures and the flows, but you need to actually have the right people on board, the right companies to do these things with. Here's my view. I'm gonna give you guys a shot of this real quick. Wow, look at that. Let's head back the other way. So you can't just have these things set up. You have to have the right people you're working with. Because some people, they're gonna talk big game, they're gonna have great content, they're gonna have really cool looking material and courses. Then the result that they deliver is subpar. It's not the one you need, it's not the one you want, doesn't do the thing you need it to do. So when I learned about the sacred account and doing infinite banking with the sacred account, this specially designed whole life insurance policy, it took me 3 times to get it right. 3 different groups. All of them said they could do the same thing. All of them were like, oh yeah, we've got you, we've got this. And the first 2 didn't. I lost money when I set up the policies. They didn't work the way I needed them to. And it was frustrating, right? Because I'm like, okay, I know the information now. I know which structures and functions and all this that need to be set up and in what sequence, but set them up with the wrong people. So that's important. Now, the final part, the third piece I want to hit with you guys is management. Now, we're familiar with the term wealth manager. And there's different definitions of what that may mean, but traditionally speaking, when someone says wealth manager, they hear wealth manager, you think what I think. You think of a guy who manages your mutual funds or tells you which stocks to pick. This is something I learned. Management is an active thing. It's not a passive thing. It's not picking something and reading a statement to someone once a year. So when I started all my wealth journey and learning and doing all this stuff, I was really, really interested in the idea of passive income. Okay, I wanted passive income. I wanted money that I did nothing for. So what I learned is that there's really no such thing as passive income. The few times where I thought there was, I ended up losing. And what I learned was that if I'm not responsible and paying attention and involved actively, it actually gave me more risk. I lost a significant part of my wealth because I was going all in on this thing. Again, second box wasn't checked, wrong people, but I was also being passive. I bought into this idea that somehow these 1%ers did it with 0 effort, 0 work, 0 time, 0 attention, and I lost my ass. So management is actually an active thing, and outsourcing to a manager, if you're ever gonna do that, is not a financial advisor. It's someone that knows how to run a company. So I want you to think of Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger with Berkshire Hathaway. Okay, when they invest in a company, they make sure that that company has good management in place. That does not mean that they're going to a financial advisor or an asset manager or a wealth manager and just saying, here's my money, tell me what it did once a year. If it went up, tell me good job, let's buy more, it's going up. If it went down, tell me, don't worry, it's on sale, let's buy more, it'll come back up. That's not what they're doing. When they buy into a company, that company needs to have a good manager, someone who can operate the business, someone who can control the business, who can manage people, who can manage the revenue and the income and the accounting and all this stuff that goes on. If you're gonna build top 1% wealth, you're gonna wear that hat. That's gonna be you. It is not a passive endeavor. It's not something that you're gonna just outsource. And if you do hire a manager or you work with a partner, you want someone competent. You want someone that's really good at what they do. You also want someone that has a team. Just looking at one deal, for example, last week, deal comes across my desk that I'm looking at investing in. Me and a partner are looking at buying it. Surface level, everything looks great. Okay, good cash flow, good income track record, all this kind of stuff, right? Then I start looking at the financials deeper, and this piece of real estate, I start looking at, okay, what are they selling it to me for? What is the discounted future cash flow value? Like if we take the income and we project that into the future, and we look at what are we gonna make? What is that worth today? What's the fair market value of the asset? What's my downside? Is there a margin of safety there? What's the after repair value? So if this property comes back into my hands because there's a foreclosure, family can't keep making payments, am I gaining or losing? Right? What kind of area is it and how quickly would it resell? All these different questions come up. On surface level, first glance, I am paying less than the note value of the property's worth. It's worth 59. They want to sell it to me for 55. Surface level deal. Anyone's going to look at that and say, okay, good. I make money. I bought it for less than the value of the note or the mortgage. Must be a good idea. Because I'm a good manager and I've been doing this for the better part of 15 years now, I knew what to look for. And I could see this deal actually didn't work out in my favor the way it was priced. So I negotiated down. I negotiated $5,000 off the purchase price, took it from a $55,000 purchase to a $50,000 purchase. Could have gone lower, but here's the thing. When you're negotiating, you don't want to burn your bridges. If that's someone you need to go back to, or you need to have a working relationship with, or you need them to vouch for your reputation in the investing community, it needs to be a win-win. So even though I could have taken them lower, I knew what was the price point that I could get a good deal, not ruin things with them, and have this work out in my favor. And that's an example of good management. So the three things we covered today: you need to have your functions, you need to have your structures in place, your flows in place, you need to be working with the right people, and you need to either be an actively good manager or hire someone that is, right, that can actually run a business. And this is stuff like I've learned the hard way. Most people don't talk about this. This is not what's in the guru courses. This is not what's in most of the social media videos. The reason I'm sharing it is because it's helped me to learn this stuff. I want you to know it too. If you're like me 10 years ago and you're learning about, okay, how do I start building wealth the way that the top 1% did historically? Man, if I could have skipped all this and I knew what I know now, and I had the management skills and expertise I have today, right? I'm an Inc. 5000 CEO. I have a top 100 fastest growing financial firm in the country. So I figured out how to be a good CEO, how to be a good manager. I didn't have all that back then. And so I made a lot of mistakes. I lost money. I had inconveniences. I stalled out. I got stuck. And I want to help you avoid that. So what I want to do is I want to give you a gift here. So I have a book called The Blueprint to Financial Freedom, and it outlines a manual of all the things you should be doing. It covers the first piece. What is the function and flow? What are the structures you need? When do you do them? What sequence do you do them in? Doesn't get into the second one, doesn't get into the third one, but it at least gives you that start. So get the book, Blueprint to Financial Freedom by Jerry Fetta. Reach out, let us know you got it. And I hope that gives you some guidance and direction. Until next time, I'll see you on my next Wealth Walk.